Sunday church with a fiddle and an old banjo. Folks would come from miles around with a five-string banjo and a hand-me-down. We'd play all day till the sun went down on a fiddle and an old banjo. That's why my face is grinning, that's why my head is spinning, that's why my ears are ringing. Fiddle and an old banjo, fiddle and an old banjo. We'd sit on the porch till it got too hot, then move our chair to a different spot, sip lemonade and fruit from a jar, play a fiddle and an old banjo. With custard pie and fresh-made jam, slice off a piece of a country ham, we'd stuff our face and fill our ears with a fiddle and an old banjo. That's why my face is grinning, that's why my head is spinning, that's why my ears are ringing. Fiddle and an old banjo, fiddle and an old banjo. Those times, the simple ways, the country cooking and the good old days. But it ain't so far if you got a car, a fiddle and an old banjo. Said I miss those times, the simple ways, the country cooking and the good old days. But it ain't so far if you got a car, a fiddle and an old banjo. That's why my face is grinning, that's why my head is spinning, that's why my ears are ringing. Fiddle and an old banjo, fiddle and an old banjo. That's why my face is grinning, that's why my head is spinning, that's why my ears are ringing. Fiddle and an old banjo, fiddle and an old banjo.
Before I started playing with anyone, it was mostly in bars that I would go to listen to bluegrass, and then I would play at pickin' parties. At one of these parties, I met someone that wanted to form a band, and he invited myself and Ray Schmitt to get together once. We got together a couple times actually, and I can remember how long ago it was because my oldest son was about 1 year old. He was in a playpen, and I think Ray's son was also in a playpen because they were in there together. We called it the Free State String Band, and we were all so new to this kind of music that we didn't realize that that was a misnomer. We thought it sounded pretty good, but it wasn't a string band. We shouldn't have called it the Free State String Band. But it went on for about 3 or 4 years, playing once a week, and we played not only in a local club, but also at a festival occasionally. We played at the Gettysburg Festival a couple of times, and other festivals around. Carlton Haney hired us for some of his festivals. Later on, the the music was too confining for some of the band members, and they went off and formed a sort of a folk rock group, and I sort of was retired for a year or so. But Ray Schmitt decided he wanted to reconvene a new bluegrass band, and with the addition of a couple of new people that we had met along the way, we called ourselves Foggy Bottom, and took up sort of where we left off. We started playing in a club in Annapolis called Charlie's West Side, and stayed there for a couple of years. It's kind of funny how playing in a club, you get to meet people that invite you to play other places. If you want to play regular, it seems like you always get chances to play at special occasions, everything from the return of the Pride of Baltimore to the Woodsy Owl concerts that we did, particularly the one at Wolf Trap. That was kind of neat. One time we got to play at Wolf Trap. And this went on for quite a number of years. It was almost as if we had no more worlds to conquer as a local band. We had done pretty much as you could do as a local band. Without traveling, it's kind of hard to make that jump from local to regional and finally to a national band. But we played on a regular basis. We had a solid following. We had a lot of people that enjoyed what we did. One of the comments that we frequently heard was people would say they didn't really like bluegrass, but they liked what we were doing.
When your March issue of Bluegrass Unlimited arrives in your mailbox, look on page 24, and you'll see a full page, and they don't do that very often for one album, a full-page album review of the new Foggy Bottom album, Old Flames. And that is quite an achievement for a band that is based locally and does not tour extensively. And they really have some nice things to say. Read it for yourself. I think Ray Schmitt wrote it and sent it in. He couldn't have done it any better if he had it. And I think the reason for that, and the reason that this great group is really beginning to get some recognition, is because they do things a little bit differently. When Bill Monroe started out, there wasn't any such thing as bluegrass music, and a lot of people didn't understand what he was trying to do. Now, of course, he's a legend and a hero. And sometimes in the music business, people will come along and listen to a little different drummer and do things a little differently. And this group has done that right from the beginning. They've had some criticism. They've had a lot of praise. They've had a lot of people not understand what they were doing. And sometimes they don't understand what each other's doing. But they've kept it on the track, and it's just beginning to pay off. I think you're seeing a group right at the beginning of what is going to be some real national recognition. It's a great pleasure for me to introduce this bunch. We play their records all the time over at 88.5. And it's going to be a great pleasure for you to hear them, especially if you've not seen them in action before. How about a real nice hand for Foggy Bottom?
When I was a young man, I looked along the mirror and washed in the river where the water ran free. Dreamed of the day I found me a Cadillac, see a lot of things I never had seen. Well, I went to the city and I got a little older and I got a little wiser and I got a good sense. Went back home and married me a woman, got a coat and bottom and a bob fence. Hey, boys, think of getting old, sitting on fire when the weather gets cold. Don't care, never run the phone. Take another little drink, won't lose any harm. Hard times, made a little moonshine, never did that on my life before. Keep up with the news in the wintertime, sitting by a gig in a country store. Hey boys, think of getting old, sitting on fire when the weather gets cold. Don't care, down around the farm, in another little drink, won't lose any harm. talk about politics, talk about religion, and worry about war. I'll stay sitting by the fire, drinking to the cider when the book gets on. Before the thing gets low, sitting by the fire when the weather gets cold. Don't care, down around the fall, ain't another little drink goes through City Hall.
Ray Schmitt is the vocalist and lead guitarist for the 5-member group, the Foggy Bottom. You play bluegrass music.
Yes,
do you play traditional bluegrass music?
Not really traditional bluegrass. We play a little bit of it, but we play more of a modern country, modern bluegrass sound. We do a lot of material that is more from a pop-oriented nature, I guess, and a lot of original music. And we try to do a fair share of traditional music, but you know, we just like to mix it up a little bit.
Tell me a little bit about bluegrass. Where does it have its roots?
Well, they say it's had its roots from Bill Monroe, who performed on the stage at the Grand Ole Opry back in the 40s, and it was broadcast over a radio station down out of Nashville, and it was picked up all over the southeast and in the Appalachian areas, and people just tuned in the radios, and it caught the bug, and now it just spread like wildfire all over the coast.
And there's a resurgence now, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
Of bluegrass music?
Right.
Well, tell me this, then. What's the difference between bluegrass and country music?
Well, I guess probably right now the big difference would be that in bluegrass it's done acoustically without any electrification, whereas country music you have electric bass and maybe electric guitar and drums. So that's pretty much the distinction of the music today.
And how did you get involved in it?
Well, coming down here to Washington back in the 60s, I was over at a friend's house and kept playing Ralph Stanley and Bill Monroe songs, and I started getting really interested in it and decided, since I had a musical background and played before, that I thought I would just pick it up myself.
Okay, give me the names of the members in your group, real quick.
The people in the band, on our mandolin is Danny Curtis from Baltimore, banjo player is Ray Hesson from Bowie, on the bass fiddle is Bradley Sams from Annapolis, Maryland, and lead vocals and guitar is Karen Belanger from Fort Washington, Maryland.
Okay, thanks for being with us on Saturday Magazine. I can't wait to hear some of that music, so I'm going to let you get up and join the rest of the group, and we'll be able to sit back and relax and enjoy down-home music, country music, really not country, bluegrass music, being performed by the Foggy Bottom. They appear in the Washington metropolitan area, and when we come back, we'll let you know how you can go hear them in person. Here's Foggy Bottom.
Move away into some crowded city, to some northern factory town. You'll find me there. Though I'll leave the past behind, I will never change my mind. These troubled times are more than I can bear. But the green rolling hills of West Virginia are the nearest thing to heaven that I know. Though the times are sad and drear, and I cannot linger here, they'll keep me and never let me go. But someday I'll go back to West Virginia, to the green rolling hills I love so well. Yes, someday I'll go home, and I know I'll right the wrong. These troubled times will follow me no more. Yes, someday I'll go home, and I know I'll right the wrong. These troubled times will follow me no more. Thank you.
Here's the king. The king lives. Bring my baby back. Woo! Let's hear it. All right. There's not that many everybody friend. I'll tell you who I'm looking for. Okay. it doesn't make any difference. And she's the bank. Now I gotta fill out the police. I don't know. You have to know. Just take the Mystic Whaler. You want to know where you give lessons and where you go? Basically, what we do is we practice as a group. We have so many people available. Did he come? I like your shirt. Look at that shirt. Look at that shirt. Number one.
All the way to Tennessee.
The Lost River flows serenely through the valley that I love. Glistening neath the moonshine from the heavens up above. As the nighttime fire warms our souls, Sam's farm on Big Ridge. We sing a song of deep love to our mountain heritage, West Virginia. The lady that I love shed a smile upon me from your blue eyes up above. West Virginia, the place I need to be when I want to reach the center of the life surrounding me. Watch the bonfire soaring, cracking loudly in the sky. Sitting close together, feeling friendship, feeling high. As we listen to the music played upon the guitar. Sing along in spirit with the words and watch the stars. West Virginia, the lady that I love, shed a smile upon me from your blue eyes up above. West Virginia, the place I need to be when I want to reach the center of the life surrounding me. Woods above Lost City hold a treasure that we share. Makes the world seem peaceful, not a worry or a care. And the morning now reminds us the day will surely bring a good life in these mountains and a song that's made to sing. West Virginia, the lady that I love, shed a smile upon me from your blue eyes up above. West Virginia, the place I need to be when I want to reach the center of the life surrounding me. When I want to reach the center of the life surrounding me.
Fire on the Mountain was a show that was on the Nashville network back when the network first started. It was so long ago that it was actually before I had cable TV, and so I never really saw it, but I know a lot of people that did have cable, and they did tell me how much they enjoyed it.
I'm reborn, man. My home is on my back. I know every inch of the highway, every foot of the back road, every mile of railroad track. I'm a free-born man. My home is on my back. I know every inch of the highway, every foot of the back road, every mile of railroad track. Thank you. If you want to love me, I'd chew you
use feeling, feeling wanted, feeling needed, feeling warm again. If you wanna love me, I sure use feeling. I'll do my best to open up my heart and let it. If you wanna love me, I sure use feeling, feeling wanted, feeling needed, feeling warm again. If you wanna love me, I sure use feeling. I'll do my best to open up my heart and let it. If you wanna love me, I sure use feeling, feeling wanted, feeling needed, feeling warm again. If you wanna love me, I sure use feeling. I'll do my best to open up my heart and let it in.
That's called I Could Sure Use the Feelin'. We also heard Love is a Rose, an old Neil Young tune, both done by one of the best-known local bands around, Foggy Bottom. And we are pleased to have several members of the group with us today. We have Karen Belanger, the lead vocalist, and also Ray Schmitt and Dan Curtis. Welcome, everybody.
That I were on a rocky top down in the Tennessee hills. There ain't no smarter folk on Rocky Top, ain't no telephone bills. Well, once I had a girl on Rocky Top, and there the other half cat. Well, wild as a milk and sweet as soda pop, I still dream about that. Rocky Top.
Foggy Bottom's future has always been hard to predict. I think we played several times what we thought was going to be our last concert. That I was joking with Ray, saying that we're going to call this our 12th annual two-city farewell tour, because we keep thinking that this is going to be it, the band that would not die. It's true that we've gone through some changes, not in personnel, but just in our expectations and in the number of jobs that we play. None of us really feel we want to play in the bars anymore, and yet if you want to play on a regular basis, those seem to be the only venues available to you.
I guess some of the highlights of our career that were probably most meaningful to me were, one of the things, playing at the Sullen Door in Georgetown. That's a club that I always wanted to play in, and we had an opportunity to play there. That was one of the highs of my career with Foggy Bottom. I guess the other thing was getting that full-page review. In Bluegrass Unlimited, we had the whole page to ourselves. It was a highlight LP, and they said such great things about us that, you know, we thought we were on the road to success right there. Another opportunity we had was to go to England and Wales and to perform at a folk festival at La Tresant in Wales, and also to play a couple of venues in London, and I guess that was probably one of the highlights of a career. And another thing that was more important, I guess, than a lot of the other things that we did was to be invited to play on the inaugural show on the Nashville network. It was called Fire on the Mountain. We got to go down to Asheville, North Carolina, and play with all the who's who of bluegrass. I think those are probably the four things that I'll always remember more than anything else.
Maybe want to fill 'em up again. Oh, Ben Hagen wants to fill 'em up again. Oh, Ben Hagen wants to fill 'em up again. Haven't had a drink since I don't know when. Yes, sir. Hot cold, 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 bring him on the Jimmy John. Hot cold, 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 bring him on the Jimmy John. Hot cold, 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 bring him on the Jimmy John. Fill it up, the best thing in the morning. Yes, sir. Preachers coming and the children crying. Preachers coming and the children crying. Preachers coming and the children crying. Chickens are scratching and toenails flying. Yes, sir. Hot cold, 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 bring it on the Jimmy John. Hot cold, 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 bring it on the Jimmy John.
I had the great opportunity to go up to my mother's town in Canada several years ago when they were celebrating the sesquicentennial of her town, and they had a lot of bands playing the traditional music, and we found out a little bit about the genealogy of our family, and how a French vintner from Belanger in France came over to Quebec in 1756, and I felt that I had really touched base with my past.
Gently to the sound, past highways and every town, over waters of loneliness we found on the strange northern bound, past the mansions of broken dreams, across the rivers of lies and schemes, through the forest of emptiness we found on the strange northern bound. Please be there for me. Oh, can't you see my heart is true? And though we may have changed, I never stopped loving you. Take me to the home we shared, back in time to a place we cared. I can hear your loving sweet sound on the strange northern bound. And though it's taken years and many tears to realize that you've been waiting there, a reflection of the love in my eyes. Rock me gently to the sound, past the highways and every town, over waters of loneliness we found on the strange northern bound, on the strange northern bound.
Foggy Bottom's a fairly well-balanced group in that we have male and female voices that blend nicely together. Bradley's singing and personality add an important element to the group that sort of keeps us linked to the bluegrass style. There was a year or two when Bradley wasn't with us, and it really, although we still sounded pretty good, he really wasn't the same. There was a time when Karen didn't perform with us, and it wasn't the same then either. So as long as we have the core that we have, the competent mandolin playing and good MCing by Dan Curtis, and then the original music that Ray and Karen are largely responsible for, and I'm trying to improve on the banjo. Since I've stopped playing on a regular basis, I've concentrated more on learning new and more difficult, more challenging tunes. And so I think that my playing has improved over the last year, so that even though there's been a certain amount of inactivity, part of the band as a whole, we really haven't missed much. Ray and Karen still write songs, still get together once in a while, and so there's not really been any break in the service that way.
Well, we're going to do this number and probably start packing up some of this stuff. Here's one called the Orange Blossom Special. Works, I can see that. Works pretty well. This is the easiest part of the whole show. Thank you.
Belanger singing for it.
Around the railroad track, we on the pump. Coming down the railroad track, this old box back. Bring it, yeah.
was hooked on. Don't know who threw the liquor in the well, but I think I know who found it. Don't know who filled the bottle up, but I think I know who downed it. Well, I've heard it said when it goes to your head, there ain't no getting around it. Don't know who threw the liquor in the well, but I think I know who found it. Well, people do the weirdest things in the circus we go living. The wheels of the world go round and round, and we just wobble with it. There are shuckers and shysters, movers and heisters, times of pain and bliss. Good guys, bad guys, straights and otherwise, on and on goes the list.
Walking in my sleep, counting trouble, steady counting sheep. Where the years went, I can't say. I just turn around and they're gone away. I've been sifting.
Now they have digital recording, and it's like you do it one time, just one time, and then you go back after that one time you did it, and you just add and take away. There are some cuts on our most recent CD where what you hear was never actually heard as a band, because you'd record a number of people doing something, and then a couple of weeks later somebody else would come in and record a guitar part, and then somebody else would come in and play a fiddle part, and then somebody else would come in and add dobro, and eventually what you have is a very fine sounding group that never actually were together at the same time playing.
These troubled times will follow me no more. Yes, someday I'll go home, and I know I'll right the wrong. These troubled times will follow me no more.
On the sunny side of the mountain where river waters fall.
It's just so wonderful, and I'm going to miss this band. This is one of the best lineups I've ever seen in bluegrass music.
No use roaming, walking by the roadside, seeking a satisfied mind. Too many byways, too many highways, and nobody's walking behind. It's only how you could pack up your sorrows and give them all to me. You would lose their mind.
memory goes back to the spring of 23, when I was just a child in Mama's arms. I dabbed out the ground and hoped that someday he could turn this rundown mortgage house into our farm. Then one night I heard my daddy saying to my mama that he'd find safe enough to go. California was a dream of paradise. He had seen a picture in a magazine and told him so.
The 5 original members of Foggy Bottom, it really just wasn't the same. Our voices blended together a certain way, and without that 5 original members, it wouldn't have been the same. So, but I'm glad we lasted this long, 20 years.
Ran so fast that the hands couldn't catch him. Down the Mississippi to the Gulf of Mexico.
See if the bell works.
If you came in late, we're Foggy Bottom.
I'll see you in November. There's no
Well, it's all pursuit.
Right,